if an emotional relationship with them is not possible without getting burned, so you write them an emotional divorce. And so.
Welcome back, everybody. You are listening to Mental Health Uncensored. I'm Shlomi Balza.
And I'm Yehuda Rothstein.
And this week we are going to continue exploring the effects of parenting on our mental health. And last week we focused more on the positive aspects of what parental support can afford to the next generation.
And now we're going to jump in a little bit, or a lot of it, and we'll see how this conversation goes, more negative.
I asked Rebbe whether we could use this recording post facto because it is delicate, and we're going to deal with it in a sensitive manner. Be'ezras Hashem. The question that we're discussing is when someone is in therapy and realizes that much of his need for therapy stems from his relationship with his parents. It could be trauma from his parents. Chas v'shalom, it could be a case of actual abuse in any one of abuse's forms, however that devil rears his head. How is his relationship with his parents supposed to be now? We have a mitzvah d'oraisa. If I were to make a list of top 10 mitzvahs, this would be top 5. So what do you do with that in a case where these are the people that have caused me a tremendous amount of suffering?
And obviously balanced with the positives, if you remember that we said last week, of all these beautiful things that a relationship with your parents can afford you.
Yeah. It's because they are such a core part of who we are. Just like you give over your whole self to your therapist, Kal v'chomer, we are entirely in the hands of our parents from the moment we exist. So they can do as much harm, chas v'shalom, than as much good as they can afford. So I'm going to pose a question to Yehuda because he hasn't heard this recording yet. And the question was, how should one interact with one's parents in a situation like this? Yehuda, take it away.
Right, so this is, as you said, extremely delicate and a massive, massive subject. Yeah. So I broke it down into about 4 steps. I want to see how these steps are going to go. This is going to be a little bit hard, but let's try with step number 1. So step number 1, I feel like you addressed already in the question. Step number 1 was take a step back. See, and this is what you said in therapy, if the person discovers in therapy that the relationship with his parents is something that's detrimental to his mental health, that's something that's slowly wearing down at him. So taking that step back is the ability to see it from an outsider's view. Sometimes it is outsider's view that something bad is happening here. So step number 1 is really taking this, and I don't think that could be played down. I don't think that we could emphasize that enough. That's really important. And a lot of times, I'm sure you've seen it, and I've seen it with friends for sure. They don't know. I think we discussed that in Rabbi Yitzchak book. Yeah. They don't know that they're being abused, and even if they know they're being abused, they don't know in their heart that this is something they need to stop. Right. They know they're being abused, but this is just life. Mm-hmm. I heard from someone that once said, I thought this is how just parents were. Right. And why would they think different? Now, even though you're going to say they went to friends' houses and they should have seen, still, the same way their parents don't act a certain way in public, they assume deep down subconsciously that other parents don't act in a certain way. So now, so step number 1 I had as taking a step back and viewing your situation from an outsider's view.
Just taking account and realizing that there is something askew here.
Exactly. And you presented that beautifully in your therapy. After you successfully accomplished that, which is no small feat, congratulations. Step number 2. Now you know what the abuse is, hopefully, and you see what's happening to you. And the question is, how to get out of it. Meaning the immediate abuse or whatever trauma is happening for whatever reason, how to stop that. Because the longer it happens to you, the more damage will happen. And so you need to stop that. Now what that means can vary from literally approaching the parent to never talking to them again. Like you could have literally opposite approaches.
Yeah.
and everything in between.
Right.
So step number 1 is to see that it's happening. Step number 2 is to exit it, leave the abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Step number 3. So now you left the abuse, and I'm making it sound very simple. I'm sure this could be a life's work. It is a life's work. But step number 3 is to get healthy. Now I know that sounds like really easy. Just get healthy.
Yeah.
Just do it.
What do you mean by that?
So what that means is to put it in perspective. Now, obviously, I think I'm going to jump right away, even though I only got up to step number 3. To the question was how to deal with your parents and how to view them when you realize this is happening. I think the ideal view in a perfectly healthy state is that the person knows that it's all from Hashem. Like that would be like ultimate health. That it's all from Hashem, and my parents can't do anything to me, and this is fully from Hashem. Now, to get to that point, that being the goal of being so emotionally healthy and stable that you feel no resentment towards them.
They're just like the shluchim.
They're just the shluchim. There's a journey to get there. That's what health looks like. Health looks like that when you talk to them, there is no hate towards them. There is pity, maybe, that they're sick. There is a sadness that they unfortunately weren't able to deal with their kids the right way. There's appreciation for who you are because of that, and all trickles back to Hashem. Now, to get there could mean along the way. Now, number 3 was to get healthy. That could mean to get healthy. A lot of times we have to build ourselves, especially when a person didn't have that fundamental core bedrock platform to build their self-esteem on.
Yeah, you're starting from scratch.
Exactly. So starting from scratch could mean that you need to appreciate who you are, and along the way of appreciating who you are is realizing that what someone else did to you was wrong. Because you don't deserve that. You deserve goodness. And that might come at the cost of hating them.
Maybe it wasn't my fault.
It might come at the cost of really hating them.
And letting yourself hate them.
Exactly. So in the step of, and number 4 is, once you do all these things, to see if the relationship is possible without having the abuse in it.
Nice.
To see if you always revert back to it, either you have to get more healthy or it's just not a relationship you can have.
Once I'm in a healthy enough place myself, that I have my own security and independence, then I can tiptoe my way back into building a healthy relationship with my parents that won't eat away at my core the way it has before I discovered who I am.
Exactly. I know this is so much, and I just covered like the most massive sphere of things ever, and it's like, oh, just get healthy. You know what I mean? Why don't you just, it's like open a door. No, I understand that it's a lot, but I think the answer to your question is, and how to deal with parents, in short, is if the relationship is abusive, and it can't not be, meaning after you got healthy and you're able to take this stock of things, if it's not able to be healthy, you have to stop it. Now, the only way to know if it's able to be healthy or not is for you to get healthy first, and be in a present, in a beautiful state of mind that you can realize that.
Or have a therapist, a third party, say, by the way, what's happening here is unhealthy.
Exactly.
Really?
And I want to throw something in.
Yeah.
That when you're doing work on yourself, I know this is a side point, but when you're getting healthy, have friends and or a therapist with you at all times. And the reason is I think it's so important.
Like in your journey?
In your journey. Make sure to have people watching, because you have to make sure you're getting healthy from an independent view, like you said. And not, my parents always wanted me to do X. So I'm doing that now, and now that I'm doing that, I'm healthy. But you realize that your view of life is skewed because you grew up with the foundations of your parents. A lot of kids grow up with the views of their parents, which can be majorly skewed.
You're saying I might not even know what healthy looks like?
Exactly. You might say, okay, I need to slam my head into the wall. Like most ridiculous case, right? If I don't slam my head against the wall, I'm not healthy. So I need to be miskaber on my Yetzer Hara and slam my head against the wall. Now, obviously, a friend can look at you and say, that's very wrong.
Yeah.
You're going to get a boo-boo.
But to you, that might feel like I finally accomplished my...
Right, right. And that example is obviously a joke, but it can be very serious and very, very, very sad in a lot of cases.
Right. What's an objectively healthy goal for my self-confidence, my self-esteem, my self-worth? Right. That's where a third party, that's where friends, family, come in.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Are you ready to hear the recording?
Yes.
Here we go.
In therapy, it comes up over time. It could turn out that parents do significant damage to their kids, but maybe b'shegeg, whatever it
It
is.
is the parents' fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. It is the parents' fault.
The question is
Wait till our
considering
kids go for therapy.
considering keep it up at aim.
Yeah.
How should a child who has come to recognition that his parents really hurt him or he was hurt by his parents, how should he now interact with them? Should he look to try to heal that relationship even if it's toxic?
As long as it's realistic, because I have seen most kids try to, work on the relationship, and then they're abused the second time when the parents are in denial.
Okay. So there is a point to say, just cut ties?
It doesn't have to cut ties. It doesn't have to cut ties. That's a shaila. Unless one really has a hard time with it, it's an emotional divorce while remaining polite, civilized, but very superficial. Very superficial in a way that you can't be vulnerable.
Always keep his guard up.
Not just keeping your guard up, but not needing their support and just writing them off. Listen, kibbud av is feeling appreciative of the fact that they gave you life. If not for them, you wouldn't be here. So it doesn't make sense how they brought you up. L'maisa, because of them, you're here. So you have to have that. But if an emotional relationship with them is not possible without getting burned, so you write them an emotional divorce. And so.
And does he have any mitzvah kibbud av? Just an internal gratitude?
Which is a mitzvah, unless a parent is a Rosh Marusha.
So he's still chayav the kavod and...
Kima, machiloi, mashkeu, yeah.
Okay. Just a broader question.
There are kids that have suffered so much that it would be traumatic for them to sit shiva when a parent passes away. But a few cases where I told them not to sit shiva.
What would the line have to be for them not to sit shiva?
That they would suffer real emotional anguish.
And they go to the Levaya?
It's up to them.
They could be a tour of Avelis.
Yeah.
Mit dem Pekuach Nefesh, what's the...
All these things are drabanan. So all you need is to prevent chayli, the equivalent of physical chayli, that you're not functional.
Wow.
Plus, in some of these cases, the parents really have a dinner for shine.
In which case there's no chiyuv Avelis.
There's no chiyuv, just, mi'ikar adin. We don't usually pater them so fast, but where the child can't handle it, you do that.
Right.
The question is, what level of narcissism is vicious?
Oh, interesting. To qualify, halakha as a Russian.
Is there a gather for that?
It's difficult.
Thank you. Is that not the most incredible recording you've ever heard?
Wow. Whew. Okay, I'm just gonna say what jumped out at me before we break it down a little bit. Was the Shiva thingy?
Yeah.
The fact that the kid doesn't have to hit Shiva because he would it be too hard for him?
Yeah. Don't paskin without running this
Right.
Rav.
Right. Obviously.
But yeah, in a case where he has a chayli because of his emotional anguish, there could be a Torah of Shiva.
Wow.
Like there are halachic ramifications to emotional health. It's not just like a flaky, talk about our feelings type of thing. Like this is real.
I feel like we gained a few things. We gained a definition of kibbud av, which I really appreciated. Mm-hmm. And I think we should start with that because I think it's a really cool place to start.
Okay.
Definition of kibbud av is what? Is appreciation that your parents brought you into this world.
That's always there. That doesn't go away no matter what.
No matter what. Now, sometimes that will be completely putter, but those are extreme cases, I think.
Never putter from appreciation.
Right.
Gotta be ourselves.
Right,
we
very
always
well
need
said.
to be appreciative. But if there is a situation where making myself vulnerable to my parents would result in them taking advantage of me and whatever, each to their own horrors.
He used the lashon of writing an emotional divorce.
That's right.
Which is quite an interesting lashon. Yeah. I wonder how that would look exactly.
Well, here's how he described it, right? There were different parts to it. There was It has to be civilized, polite, superficial, on the other hand, and leaves no room for vulnerability.
Right, meaning you're turning your relationship into something that looks very good on the outside, but is nothing emotionally.
Yeah, professional.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Very well said. Professional.
The goal being that he has an independence, that at any point his parents don't have a stronghold on him, that he can, like Rabbi said, write them off.
Exactly.
You don't know me.
Exactly. And then Rabbi did touch on what we were talking previously about if it's possible. You know, a lot of times Rabbi sees because of kids, readiness to get back into a relationship that was bad, the parents, unfortunately, doing again what they did previously because of a denial, Rabbi said.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Kids love their parents. They're desperate for a relationship with them.
But it's the saddest thing at the same time. When it gets abused.
Right.
When it gets literally abused, the relationship of a child.
In a situation where the parent is in denial and doesn't acknowledge that they've done anything wrong, they're not ready to change, they're not ready to have a healthy relationship, then when the child does make those steps to, again, open up those wounds and try to help them heal, and he makes himself vulnerable to his parents, they can be, cut down again if the parent isn't ready or unable. We're not here to blame the parents. We're looking, from the child's perspective. Some parents don't have the emotional or training, the ability to have a healthy relationship. So you can hang on to the appreciation, and that you still have the mitzvah, unless he's an actual halachic rasha,
which again should not be paskin by yourself.
Absolutely, no, never.
Please do not.
You have tremendous bias.
None of this stuff should be paskin by yourself. But this is an outline for what you, if you are going through something with your parent, you should be expecting, to some degree. And you should be ready for it. Be wary.
Cautious.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a very painful subject. There really are. It happens more often than we'd like to admit.
Exactly.
The yeshiva world, in the frum community, it really it does exist. You mentioned in the introduction, just to recap. Here are some of the things that Rebbe. Here are some of the things that Rebbe covered, and let me know if I left anything out. We have the ability to blame everything, all emotional issues, on our parents.
Exactly.
It's tongue-in-cheek is like, it's all our parents' fault. Technically, if you don't want to take any accountability, anyone who has parents, anyone who was born can say it was all his parents' fault.
It's true.
That's out there. Don't take advantage of that. You got,
exactly.
Take accountability. With that being said, the second point was only try to rebuild a relationship when there's a realistic possibility of a healthy relationship. Be cautious, and because Rebbe's seen, kids who try coming back and get hurt.
That comes with the knowledge of what a good relationship looks like. Which, in order to want a relationship with your parent, you have to know what a good relationship looks like. And then after you absolutely defined, however that is, you define that, what a good relationship with this parent is. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. With this parent, what a good relationship could look like, and how it will not emotionally negatively affect you. Yeah. Then comes the question of, can I rebuild this?
Right. Yeah. How much can I make myself vulnerable? How much are they able to actually engage in a relationship without harming? Yeah. 100%.
So what are I'd like to put a few pieces of advice we can give to someone going through this, and what should they expect?
First of all, my heart goes out to you. We don't get to choose our parents, and this is the lot that you were given. It is tough. It is hard, and you listen to our last podcast. Parents are everything, and if you're missing a healthy bedrock of parenting, you're starting with a 1,000-pound backpack on your back, heading out on this hike. You make it to the top, then you've accomplished 1,000 times more than anyone else. You can do it, but this might be a relationship that you can't throw yourself into. That was the message that Rabbi said. Be careful.
And know that, be prepared, that you may want the relationship, but it may not be healthy for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's very normal.
Yeah.
Because as Rebbe said, he's seen people go back to their parents, and the question becomes, why did they go back? And that's what you said. It's this connection we desire.
Yeah, of course.
And the connection we desire is and is where there's not a healthy one that's there. We don't necessarily know, especially if that's where you're coming from. You don't know the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, when you were discussing, what you would answer, right, in the introduction, so you mentioned the two poles, the extremes where, the different types of exercises you can do to get healthy. You could, confrontation is a big one. And again, that's really tough because you can't play out what the other party's going to do, right? The parent can totally throw a curveball. So that's dangerous. Yeah, you really have to be in a very, very good place where you're ready to be totally shut down by the most important person in your life, right? You have to walk into that conversation, and hopefully it won't go that bad, but the harm can be so bad. You have to be prepared for that. But then there's so many gradient levels in between. In therapy, we would do something called the empty chair technique. All right, this is it's fun. You have to be a little creative for it, but you have an extra chair in the therapy room, and you say, okay, imagine your father or mother or whoever it is sitting in this chair, and this works with any relationship, truth be told, and you say, if they were sitting here, what would you say to them?
Exactly.
You just kick off that conversation, and then the tricky part is that you help the client, you invite them to sit in that chair, and say, what would he respond? What would she say back? What do you think is going? And they get to step into the shoes of the other half of this toxic relationship.
Wow.
Maybe the parent is saying, I'm trying all that I can, but I'm overwhelmed.
Right.
And, I wish I'd done more for you and I have regrets. Or the parent will say, in a really, damaged situation, if there's a serious personality disorder, they'll be like, I never did anything wrong in my life. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. That's, as Rabbi said, the denial aspect, where it can be very dangerous to return to that relationship.
Yeah. Abraham Lincoln introduced the concept of the unsent letter, where you sit down and you write a letter to this person, and you just leave it in your drawer. Some things are what was it? Some things that you think shouldn't be said, some things that you say shouldn't be written, some things that are written shouldn't be published. Yeah,
that's good.
So you can write down the letter without sending it, and it's incredibly therapeutic. Emotional journals go a long way.
Wow. But all these things that we're saying definitely go to somebody that's competent to talk to about this. Go to Rebbe.
Yeah, this is
choose the right way. We are giving ideas in what you might encounter with a therapist, what to not be surprised about.
I introduced the question from a place in therapy. Once it dawns on the client that
and that's important. That's important that people know that.
Yeah,
that's important that people know that.
Okay, this is a great place to wrap up.
Yeah, I really appreciate you joining us. And if you have any questions about this subject, I'm sure there are plenty.
Yeah.
Please feel free to send them to mhuncensored@gmail.com. We will try to handle them as delicately as possible. Obviously, my friend Reb Shlomo will be answering those questions, as he is the therapist.
Well, I'll just pass them on to Rebbe.
Or if we can get them on an episode, we will ask them to Rebbe.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he will be fielding those questions, and he will obviously tell you if those answers are from him or from Rebbe. And we're looking forward to hearing your feedback. Thank you so much for joining us.
Have a wonderful day.